Okay, I heard this is a pretty compelling game, so let's just take a look at it. Oh my god, this is amazing, and I must talk about it. Okay, I'm going to quickly go over the combat, the puzzles, and the save file getting wiped after too many deaths stuff because it's pretty short compared to other aspects of the game I want to more talk about. The combat is basic and works well enough to not be a hindrance to the game, but it's obviously not the focus of the game. The combat, especially in the boss fights, have built up context to visually show the struggle of Senua during the course of the narrative. So yes, the combat is necessary as it is used to show a direct method to the player of the real struggle of the character. Honestly, I personally enjoyed it, despite other games being much more fleshed out in the gameplay department. But, in short, it's a good half that tags along with a great half. Nothing wrong with that. I personally like the puzzles. I will admit they weren't too difficult, and most of the time it's just figuring out where the next step is and requires very minimal brain activity, in my opinion. As a side note, I'm also aspiring to be a filmmaker and have grown a critical eye toward movies and the hints they like to leave for plot twists, sequels, but mostly sequels. So yes, I can accept being in the minority of people who thought of it as a pleasant and enjoyable pastime to juxtapose the really dark themes that the story is portraying. It's a healthy structure of downtime to uptime, which would be exhausting to the player if it's set only toward one side. So yes, this happens. Just watch any Gorefest movie and try to find it scary by the end, or a non-stop action movie and still give a shit. In a game where it's all about mental illness and trying its best to convey a sense of insecurity and uncertainties, I've got to admit the fear of your game wiping after a number of deaths is pretty scary. It's a decision that I feel is directly targeted to the player, while everything else can seem disconnected to the player. Make no mistake, all the threats were threats, but they were threats towards Senua more so than the player. However, the threat of your game wiping is directed more toward you yourself, and personally, it's the one fear that I worried about the most, and it got me more invested into playing the game and being more careful about death. Needless to say, it paid off as a result, which, personally, I find a problem that tends to happen in other narrative-focused games because, as, well, the saying goes, the story must go on. Now, it's no secret that as creativity and entertainment is at an all-time low, they're resorting to grasping for anything in order to stay relevant without actually, being creative, leading to selling entertainment on the tagline of them promoting strong female characters, among many other buzzwords. No matter what you're going to do, you're going to get a lot of good and bad characters in this vein as a result. Just comes with the territory. Some good, some bad. I'll be humble and admit I figured I was being a female-hating misogynist in this case. I'm able to possibly accept that. But then I watched it happen one night. Gone with the Wind. And The Grapes of Wrath. After watching these movies, I realized that these new female characters are just, for lack of better terms, shit compared to the women in the movies I just mentioned. So then I figure we aren't going to get quality female characters up to that high level of writing anymore. Well, guess who proved my ass wrong? Thank Mary Sue on high heaven. Yes, Senua is one of my new favorite strong female protagonists in recent memory, and I'll tell you why. Two of the main traits needed for a main character is their imperfections and their desire for their goal. The main character's imperfection is the personal or external challenge that the character must face and overcome. It's a clear way to show character growth. Senua has the mental disorder called psychosis, and one simple Google search of the symptoms involved in psychosis has led me to have a greater respect than I already have from playing through the game for the unfortunate victims. Because by God, this is a lot of crap for someone to deal with. I'm actually surprised how much of the game keeps to these symptoms. I figured there was some liberties that they took, but no, everything in the game is connected or can be explained through a symptom experienced by victims of psychosis. Now, I don't claim to be any of the experts that helped work on the game and its direction, but I would like to say that I like how they presented a good and bad outlook toward it, a morally gray outlook. Okay, now let me just explain. I have to go on a personal tangent here. Now, I mainly grew up with two younger brothers during my childhood, and they were annoying. Compared to most kids, they would constantly yell and mess around in the car. This was the trend for many years. My mother and I dealt with this for a good decade. That's literally half my life here. So let's just say I have trained myself to filter out literal annoying voices that were right behind me. As a result, I tend to have a stronger tolerance compared to most people I have seen. So when I say that the voices plaguing Sonia throughout the game never did bother me at all, it's mainly due to my own life experience, which has led to my high tolerance, but I perfectly accept being the exception, and in no way am I downplaying any actual victims of psychosis who experience similar symptoms has the effect of hearing voices. Strangely enough, they use the voices to signal off-screen threats, almost like some other game which is also surrounded in Norse mythology. As a result, the psychosis is not seen as fully evil or fully good. It's more in the middle, especially when at one point when you lose all connection to them for a while in one of the most effective horror sections in the game, period. Where they return and are much more nicer and supportive towards Sonia. Which, as when it comes to the ending, as expected, it ends off with her achieving her goal, but she still has her psychosis. It's a great message, I find, that shows to the player that you can control your imperfections. You may not be able to get rid of them, but you can become stronger than them. You should never let it define you. Instead, you are the one who defines yourself. Yes, sometimes it may be impossible and a unrealistic expectation to set on people. Not everybody achieves their dreams and goals. There are winners and losers, of course. Sure, I'll let you believe that, but I'll still go on believing that the impossible is just the future roadmap of humanity. And it will only remember those who make it reality. You know how happy I am that Sonia is trying to save a dude who isn't made to be looked at as a doofus? It was so relieving. It's either one or the other. It's quite strange in entertainment. They don't do both. Now, the man's name is Dillian, and since I suck at remembering names for people, this is quite the compliment. The relationship between Dillian and Sonia is believable, and you can see why Sonia would risk her soul being completely destroyed in order to save him. It is even more cemented by the flashbacks, giving more context to their relationship. Both characters are seen to be weak, but also strong at different points in the game. Neither is the dominant one. Each of them recognize they will need to lean on the other for help, and it only makes each of them stronger as a result. It's a very healthy relationship. There is no problem with her learning how to fight from Dillian. There is no problem with Dillian being a little compassionate. There is no problem at all for characters to not be one-dimensional. The strength of this game and the story itself is intertwined with the strength of the relationship between Sonia and Dillian, as it's her goal to save Dillian from hell. Now, I'm going to skip to the ending, so if you're fine with spoilers, accept the ending, then here we go. Now, the end reveals that Dillian is gone forever and can't be recovered, so Sonia leads to accepting the fact that she must let him go. It's still a satisfying ending, to me at least, because the issue plaguing them both is Sonia's struggle to overcome her psychosis, but in reality it transforms into her struggle to come to reality to the fact that Dillian is gone. Dillian loves Sonia and only wanted her to overcome her difficulties, to see her stronger and be the great person he sees her as. However, the struggle morphs into her grieving for Dillian as well as her psychosis. And in a way, she still suffers, but now Dillian is another layer to it. Sonia finally overcoming her psychosis fully could not be done if she couldn't come to terms with Dillian's death. And personally, what can a lover want more than to see their significant other be happy? Dillian gave her the initial hope and confidence in herself, the starting off point, and now she has to finish that journey alone. Now she has overcome everything holding her back to become the person Dillian has always seen her as, both her psychosis she's lived all her life and then the acceptance that Dillian is gone. It's a great message about it being okay to look to someone in order to rise up from a bad situation. It's okay to accept help, but also a cautionary tale of not letting them become a new reason to hold you back from greatness. Yeah, that's what I think of Hellblade Senua's sacrifice, which is cleverly still involves her to sacrifice not her life, but her attachment to her lover. Now, personally, that's pretty clever titling. Unlike someone else who named it just to bait fans and steal hype, but in reality it doesn't mean anything, leaving a character more of an unstoppable Jesus figure than the actual supposed Jesus figure and son. But back to topic. It's honestly pretty rare for me to be this invested in a game that I had no interest in playing for a while, but still I had a lot of respect for this game regardless. Now, I hate myself for letting the game sit for a good month or so without me playing it, but I am sorry for the lack of uploads due to me having to finish my college classes, God of War, and a part-time job. Speaking of which, make sure you share and subscribe. Notification button if you're on YouTube. For more videos, spread it around as I am a very small channel and I could use it. Thank you.